Hello, I am Jenny Fitzpatrick, and welcome to another edition of Kickin' It with Coton House. I'm going to start all over again.
Do you have to say Kickin' with Coton House?
Yes, that's what it's called. Kickin' It with Coton House.
Okay.
Blah, blah, but I got all crazy. So you've got to start again, too. Hi, this is Jenny Fitzpatrick, and welcome to another edition of Kickin' It with Coton House. Today, we are talking all things title, and I have a special guest with us.
Hi, I'm Chantal Freilich with Fidelity National Title. I'm business development. I'm also a broker. I'm also an investor. I will geek out to anything about real estate and title all day long.
So the process today, what we're trying to do is demystify title and title insurance and what happens when you purchase a property. So in the very beginning, we have an executed contract, and the very first thing you have to do is turn in your earnest money and your option fee to the title company. And buyers always follow directions. They're great at following directions, but what really happens? I think that buyers think of the title company, first of all, kind of the simple definition of the title company is a disinterested third party. So they're completely not part of the contract at all, except for they are doing, at the bare minimum, the processing of everything. So buyers think that what the title company does is the paperwork, and they do. They do a great job of paperwork, but what are they doing, and what does it mean when they are searching title? Because once you pay your earnest money and your option fee, the title company goes to work and they start doing a title search. So what does that mean?
Okay, so when they start the process, we receive the contract. Again, like you said, we are a neutral third party. We receive the funds of the earnest money and the option fee. We're holding that in escrow. So again, third party neutral for both buyer and seller. We then start the title process. So when we open title, that means that we are now starting the research, doing the abstract on the title. So we're going, we're going all the way back to Methuselah, making sure that the chain of title has not been broken.
So let me interrupt for 1 second. Chain of title. Basically, it is who owned the property way back when, the beginning records that they can find, and it keeps going owner to owner to owner, and that is your chain in the chain of title.
Yes, perfect. And we're making sure that every time it has changed hands, that everything was clear. That way, that when seller is now conveying property to the buyer can rest assured that they now own that property free of any encumbrances on title, any previous liens. Everything has been cleared. It is now theirs and theirs alone.
So let me give you an example. There could be a special tax lien that you wouldn't know about, and maybe the seller doesn't really even know about that lien also. Somebody could be selling a house and they did some work on the property and they paid the bill, but for some reason maybe there was more money due, and so that person who worked on the house can put a lien on the house if they don't think they're paid in full. And the seller may not know that. So those are just very simple examples of what the title company is trying to figure out. So when you take possession of the property, if there are any problems, they've solved them. And if not,
then we come in. So types of liens are, a previous mortgage, and we've had instances where the mortgage has been paid in full, but they never filed the release.
Yep.
So that deed of trust is still showing there. So we're making sure that that's done. Mechanics liens, as you talked about, city liens. So you have weed liens, dangerous building liens. When I was a practicing agent, I actually had a seller who was selling his piece of property, which had changed hands 3 times in the last 10 years. But the title company that we were closing at, they found a 20-year-old city lien that had to be addressed. Thank goodness he had his title policy so he could fall back on that. The purpose of a title policy is to, if anything does pop up, people are human, things happen. If anything does pop up, the title company is saying we're insuring that property, and if that now owner suffers any loss, they can file a claim, it will be investigated, and they will be made whole if they suffered a loss.
So what that means in terms of buyers and sellers is seller sells the property, they get their money, buyer is the new owner, and they're holding a title policy. It is a title insurance policy. So if someone comes out of the woodwork to that new buyer and says, hey, we had a lien on this house, something happened, the city comes, the county comes, the federal government comes, then the title insurance company is notified and they can investigate that claim. It is insurance just like you get homeowners insurance, auto insurance. It is just based on the title of your home specifically.
Yeah. And the weirdest things do happen. I had someone who was referred to me. She bought a piece of property 20 years ago from, I think it was, someone that she knew. She actually knew. That was in 2000. In 2021, she found out, and it was a raw piece of property, found out that he had filed a correction deed, basically signing it from himself to himself, saying that he never sold the property.
Sneaky.
Oh yeah. And when she bought it in 2000, it went through a title company. She has a title policy on it. So that will protect her from, to correct what he has done, to protect, because she did purchase it. She had a lender. It was all legitimate, but people do odd things.
Interesting.
But so now what's happened, he has clouded title. She cannot move forward to do anything, because he's done that. So she's basically the advice was, you need to go to your title policy. Unfortunately, the title company that she had worked with is no longer around. So the recommendation was you have to go to Texas Department of Insurance. They will give you a copy of your title policy because she lost hers in the flood, and she's moving forward with that.
So let me just clarify one thing here. When the name of the title company that is on your contract where you deliver your money, that is not necessarily the company that is going to issue your title insurance. Fidelity National does everything. They are an actual insurance company, but there are a lot of very small title companies out there that really do just do the paperwork, and they do the title search, but they are not the ones actually insuring the property. So what Chantal just said is that it was the named company that they did business with that went out of business. The title insurance company was still in business, but then it was a matter of finding that company. So it is a little bit complicated. The people that you sit in front of when you close are not necessarily the people that issue your title policy.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'll say, it's not very often, certainly in my experience, I know you see it differently, but in my experience, it's not very often that there are title insurance claims. I've been in the business 15 years, I've never had somebody come back to me and tell me that they are, that they've begun a claim on their title insurance. But it is very important to have, because from what I understand, if you've got a claim on title, it's probably going to be a big one. So title insurance is not inexpensive, and it's often a little bit confusing on the sales contract. It typically says, it's customary, that the seller is going to pay the title policy for the buyer. But there's a little bit of breakdown within that. Can you explain that to us?
Yes. So in the contract, it is a negotiable piece, and like you said, 9 times out of 10, we're seeing that the seller's paying for it. You have to have a very hot piece of property for the buyer to be paying for that. Now, as I explain it to sellers, it's like, yes, you are paying, you as a seller are paying for the cost of the title policy that's going to protect the buyer from any future claims. But in reality, it's also protecting the seller, because if anything does pop up, that buyer is going to the name on their title policy. They're not coming back to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, saying you should have known that there was this, whatever it is, whatever lien it is, that encumbrance that's on title. So in reality, it does protect the seller, because once they are done, they are done.
Mm-hmm.
Anything comes up, it's like your home warranty. What is it, that unwritten Murphy's Law that 2 months after you move into your house, something's going to go wrong with the AC. The buyer is calling the home warranty company and not calling the seller. It's the same thing with the title policy.
Yes, it is absolutely very good protection.
So As far as the process, because I know you wanted to talk about when the buyer sends in their money. So title company does, we start the research, we look at everything. We're also coordinating everyone. If you need a survey, the whoever's financially responsible for that survey, even though it's on the contract, we do need written authorization to go ahead and order it. We make sure that everything is on the settlement statement, so that when anyone's doing their accounting at the end of the year during tax season, they have all that information. We are coordinating. Unfortunately, deals do bust out. So that's one of the reasons why earnest money is set with the title company, because that way there's a very trackable legal trail on who gets the earnest money, how the option fee is dispersed, etc.
And you also work with the lenders.
Yes.
It's a very important piece, because the lender is sending their money to the title company, but there's very specific rules and instructions on how that money is dispersed.
Yes.
And title needs to follow those directions very carefully and get everything on that final closing disclosure.
Yes, so both lender and title work together in unison to make sure that everything balances. We make sure that all documents have been signed. So as far as legally with the transfer of title, everything's done accurately. That has to happen, and we actually send that package back to the lender for them to review before they'll either give us funding authorization or actually send the funds. It's the same thing with the seller's lender. If they have a current mortgage, we actually get the official payoff, and we're making sure that it's good through the date of closing, so that way when we pay off that mortgage, seller doesn't have to worry about anything being different. We do let the seller know that we're paying off their current mortgage based on the numbers that lender provided. If that lender provided us incorrect numbers, there is a document that they're going to sign that's saying that we understand we need to talk directly to our lender. If there's an overage, the lender is going to return it, so nobody has to worry about paying off too much.
So I will say there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes at the title company. You may think you've just given them your earnest money and your option fee and you'll see them at closing, which is true, but they are very involved in the process in making sure everything goes smoothly. One thing I will say, I have worked with a number of title companies. One thing I very much appreciate about Chantal and Fidelity National and her team, they know title. If I ask a question, they know how to answer it. It is very rare they don't know how to answer it, but if they don't know how, they have people at their fingertips who can immediately get back to me with a response. Not all title companies are equal. You really want to make sure that you are working with somebody who knows title. Always questions come up. So I will just say that I do think as much as buyers and sellers look at it on a contract and think, oh, maybe we don't have a choice. There is a choice. But I would just say that it's important who you go to. It's important who holds your money. It's important who does all the processing, because it always makes a difference also on closing day. You want closing to go smoothly. You want somebody to be able to explain the big fat stack of documents to you. You just don't want somebody pushing it across the table and just having you sign. You're spending money. It's a big investment. As a seller, you want to make sure you're getting all the funds you possibly can. You want somebody who knows what they're doing. So I appreciate Chantal and her team very much. I appreciate you being here today, and thank you for helping us demystify title.
Absolutely, my pleasure. If anybody has any questions, you contact Jenny and she contacts me.
And thank you for sticking with us through Kicking It with Coton.